butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me high and dry. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're gentle and wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, 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 baby, you give me ice and fire.
Today we're going to take a walk back into the history. As you saw on the cover page, I had a question answered after all these decades. I said this the other day. I said, how come only in America we have African Americans? How come we don't have Afro-British and Afro-Scottish and Afro-Irish? And oh yeah, and don't forget Afro-Italians and Afro-Spanish. Why is it only in America? Well, yesterday actually, I found it. I found the answer to my question. Yes, they did call Africans that came over into Europe from Africa, they did call them Afro-Europeans and Afro-Chinese. And also, don't ever forget that they really called them Afro-Germans. And I got that for you today. I went and found that. So, right now, let me answer a couple more comments. Okay, y'all cool? Y'all cool down here? Thank you, Mio Ryder. Y'all say hello to my other friend from the Philippines, Mio. She's an incredible woman, man. She knows you better, if you want to get subscribers, you need to sub up to Mio. Well, you need to sub up to Mio anyway, because she's a very lovely lady. And part of her show is usually in English too, okay? But this woman can help you get subscribers by the correct method. Outside of people not being inside your live stream, that's the easiest, most efficient way to get subscribers is new people subscribe to you from within your live show. Other than that, it's a great big old hassle. But anyway, welcome, Mio. And like she says right here, she She, uh, what is okay? She just rushed in right now, which is fine with me, and she's also sharing our show with her friends from all over the world so that they can all know who Papa Will is. Thank you very much, Mio. And so, like I said, while I'm sitting here looking, I'm gonna go and get the show. Let me go get the show. Okay, and we're gonna get this show rolling. But first, I gotta do my intro. My intro. Wait a minute. Let me bring it up. Butch, just let me bring it up over here. And where did it go? No, you have to open up. I always get caught talking about my instructions I'm going through when I'm getting ready to do a show. I always start talking about what I'm doing, what has to be done this way, stop here, get ready to go over there. It's just automatic, but it's habit. Okay. So now I got that up there. So now let me come back over here and get this show started the right way. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage. Big Papa Will, sponsored by Michael Welch. I Want You Naked is my favorite song he's doing nowadays, ladies and gentlemen. But let's get this party started.
You're watching the Y2K show, where they play my kind of videos. You're watching the Y2K show, where they play my kind of videos.
Soy Roberto, El Favorito Gringo, Mi Pelos Blanco, Hecho en San Mateo, Dime cuando ven a Mexico, soy una California oso, más grande de mi sueño, es un nuevo año, nuevo tempo, no ratos or latas, no preguntas menso, inteligente pero soy poco loco, fiestas. Soy Roberto, El Favorito Gringo, Mi Pelos Blanco, Hecho en San Mateo, Dime cuando ven a Mexico, soy una California oso, más grande de mi sueño, es un nuevo año, nuevo tempo, no ratos or latas, no preguntas menso, inteligente pero soy poco loco, fiestas. Soy Roberto, El Favorito Gringo, Mi Pelos Blanco.
Quiet on the set. Quiet on the set. Quiet on the set.
Oh my God!
You're watching the Y2K show, where they play my kind of videos.
Quiet.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Thank you for watching the Y2K show. show where they play my kind of videos.
What's up? I'm on tonight, riding through those city lights. Fresh candy paint on the headed to a party. What's up? I'm on tonight, vibing in those city lights. Pedal to the metal when I'm cutting through lanes. Bass on booming to rattle the brain. English a hog and my status the same. Fresh outfit to compliment the paint. I'm on tonight and the party won't wait. Running through these lights at a NASCAR pace. Under city lights with some stunners on my face. I'm on tonight, feeling as fresh as my paint. Fresh candy paint on the riding through your city. What's up? I'm on tonight, riding through those city lights. Fresh candy paint on the headed to a party. What's up? I'm on tonight, vibing in those city lights. Fresh candy paint on the sitting with a hottie up front. I'm on tonight, partying under city lights. Fresh candy paint on the stomping on a bleach, yes sir. I'm on tonight, vibing under city lights. Arm out the window, asking hottie her name. Offer her a ride and sit her next to me. Enjoy the city life, just don't OD. Caught up under city life, just like me. Headed to a party while she puffs on blues. Pull around the corner, see the party on the app. We party under
Germany has a complicated history with its black people. While the country was not a major colonial power compared to other European countries, it did have a colonial presence in Africa in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and it played a crucial role in the transatlantic slave trade. During the colonial period, Germany established several colonies in Africa, including Togo, Cameroon, and Namibia. In Namibia, German colonial forces committed genocide against the Herero and Nama people, resulting in the deaths of tens of thousands of people between 1904 and 1908. The colonial authorities also forcibly recruited laborers and imposed harsh conditions on the local population. In addition to the colonial period, Germany also had a small but significant population of Black Germans during the 20th century. Some of these individuals, also known as Afro-Germans, were descendants of Black people in Germany since the 18th century, and the children of African soldiers who were stationed in Germany during the First and Second World Wars, while others came to Germany as immigrants or refugees. During the Third Reich, when the Nazi Party ruled Germany, Black Germans were subjected to discrimination, persecution, and violence along with other minority groups. They were classified as Rhineland bastards and subjected to forced sterilization under Adolf Hitler's eugenics program. Some Black Germans were also interned in concentration camps and used as forced labor. After the Second World War, Black Germans continued to face discrimination and marginalization despite legal protections against racism and discrimination. In recent years, there have been efforts to recognize and address the historical and ongoing discrimination faced by Black people in Germany, including the establishment of organizations dedicated to promoting the rights and interests of Black Germans.
What was the process of actually putting this all together?
Many, many hours of finding the right camera angles and watching it. The first trouble started just after 1 o'clock.
45 pages, here it is right here.
Somber day for the country.
The founder of the Oath Keepers militia group is headed to prison for more than 18 years.
His lawyers didn't have this video. The video we're watching right now, his own lawyers did not have. There was a big question of what did the people do who actually did enter the building.
This is where we picked it up with the security footage that is new. At this point, the story dramatic.
This episode looks at the brutal treatment and mass killings that Germany did to Africans and Afro-Germans. The start of a new century can be regarded as a new chapter in the annals of history, and with every new chapter comes the first of everything, either good, bad, or dark, that would occur repeatedly in that chapter and subsequent ones. On the pages of Dark Events, it doesn't appear as a surprise that Germany did the honors of launching the first genocide of the 20th century with the Herero genocide. It would appear that the reason for the annihilation of about 75% of the Herero population in the space of 4 years was to serve as a general punishment to the entire race for their wrongdoings. And to be fair, if it could be considered fair at all from hindsight, rumor has it that it wasn't the German militia who struck the first blow. But while the reason may have been punishment for rebellion in the beginning, it progressively tended towards racial cleansing with time, the removal of the impure for the pure and the new to emerge. The tragic genocide which took place in present-day Namibia, which was then named German Southwest Africa, didn't just happen unprovoked. It could be said that it resulted from years of conflict and strife between the native Herero and the white German invaders. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't meant to happen to the Herero people. For you see, they were not the original dwellers of the land. The San and the Khoi Khoi, being the original natives, were driven out of the territory to the dry, rugged hills by the Herero during the mid-18th century. The country flowed with milk and honey and had vast expanses of rich, arable land. So, the Herero, being cattle herders, seized it for themselves. A century and a half later, the Germans would pay a visit to the African territory and, as was the craving of the era, subject it to colonial rule. German Southwest Africa formally became a German colony following the Berlin Conference of 1884 and 1885, and it was then the historical path of both parties merged into what would become a blood-bathed path, haunted by ghosts of tens of thousands of black men, women, and children. Over the span of 10 years of colonization, the native groups were subjected to hard labor and had their land and livestock either seized or stolen by their colonial masters. That Germany didn't have richer African countries that promised profitable ventures under their colony wasn't the case. So, one would wonder why they bothered to disturb these nomads who had nothing to give but cattle. But you see, the land was what was in it for the Germans, for it was 2 times as large as their country, but the population of the natives paled in comparison to that of the Germans. So, it became a suitable settling place for the Germans in Africa, and they wasted no time in establishing that, as 3,000 Germans were comfortably settled on the central high grounds of today's Namibia by 1903. This migration of the white men, albeit not so large, naturally led to conflict, as there were not enough resources to cater to the needs of the natives and the settlers altogether. The socio-economic balance of the society was disrupted, and overarching challenges of survival kicked off in earnest. The Germans would have had an easy ride over the people of Herero and the other natives of the land, despite their number, but for the industrious nature and quest for modernization of the Herero, who over the years had learned to ride horses and shoot guns.
Did you know that you could get $50,000 to over $150,000 of investment capital at 0%?
Natives of the land, despite their number, but for the industrious nature and quest for modernization of the Herero, who over the years had learned to ride horses and shoot guns. The first blow was dealt on the morning of January 12, 1904, under the command of their leader, Chief Samuel Maharero. The Herero clan carried out a coordinated attack on the German front in Okahanja in a bid to overthrow the colonial rule. By noon, the native soldiers had laid siege to the fort, and despite the regulations placed by Maharero to avoid killing women and children, the women were not exempt from about 123 German settlers' casualties recorded that day. The Herero largely had a field day, as the Germans were unprepared and unsuspecting of such an attack, which lasted for a few weeks. However, the Germans, under the command of Major Theodor Leutwin, who also served as the governor of the colony, began to call for reinforcement and ammunition supplies and fought back to defend themselves and ward off the enemy lines. As soon as the level of control was reached, Major Leutwin chose reason over retaliation, and surmising that the German colonial garrison was outnumbered by the native fighters, who were armed and brutal, he reckoned that the best line of action to take was to have a conflict resolution discussion with the Herero. Perhaps, if the negotiation had taken place, a compromise might have been reached and things would not have gone bad. But, either as fate would have it or by human engineering, that was not to be. His proposition was overruled by the German colonial office in Berlin, who made it crystal clear that peace was not an option. The fighting continued, and just as the governor feared, on April 13, 1904, the German troops were overwhelmed and the survivors returned to the base with tails between their legs. Consequently, Major Leutwin was relieved of his command of the military, and Lieutenant General Lothar von Trotha was appointed by the German Emperor to take charge of the military. It is quite interesting that the Emperor was careful to select not just anybody, but one who was a colonial veteran of both the China Boxer Rebellion and the German East African Wars. No doubt about it, nothing short of delivery was expected of the general. On June 11, 1904, von Trotha stepped foot into German Southwest Africa. The fighting had ceased since April, and up until his arrival, there were no confrontations whatsoever. The Herero had withdrawn from the area and taken refuge in the remote Waterberg Plateau, which was at the outskirts of the Kalahari Desert. They gathered their armies there to avoid further confrontations with the Germans, more so that more German troops, supplies, and ammunition were spotted coming into the country. In optimism, they awaited a possible negotiation from the Germans to settle for peace, but they didn't entirely let their guard down in case they were attacked. The plateau was also well positioned for them to flee into British Bechuanaland, which is present-day Botswana. They seemed to have all their cards right, but failed to consider one last card. Or perhaps they were oblivious to the change in command of the German troops. The new supreme commander was nothing like the old. He was as unpredictable as he was ruthless. In the space of 2 months, he stealthily encircled the Herero. Although the undertaking proved very difficult because he didn't have the complete maps of the entire area, and he had to move heavy artillery across the rugged terrains of the plateau, he managed to pull it off. The general had just one move to make: destroy the African rebels in one sweeping blow.
Oh my god, they're so good. Oh my.
The Battle of Waterberg began on August 11, 1904. As soon as it was done, von Trotha ordered his 1,500 German soldiers to attack the band of about 40,000 Herero soldiers, of whom those armed were about 5,000. The Germans would ordinarily stand no chance against the Herero, but for two factors they wielded to their advantage. One, the element of surprise, and two, their modern artillery. The Herero were woken up by shells and blasts and horrid frenzies of confusion as their place of refuge came crashing down in flames. When they attempted to attack the Germans, they were met with bullets from machine guns generously stationed all around them. By afternoon, the Herero conceded defeat and fled. Managing to break through a German flank southeast, they fled into the Kalahari in a bid to escape to British Bechuanaland, present-day Botswana. In response, the general sent the Schutztruppe, which was the general name of the German colonial force in Africa, in pursuit of the African clan escaping through the desert. Thousands of Herero men, women, and children lost their lives, either from being shot, drinking poisoned water, or from thirst and starvation. Even those that surrendered were executed outrightly. Von Trotha continued to fill the oases of the Kalahari Desert with black blood until October, when his army couldn't go any further due to fatigue and exhausted supplies. The German troops returned to the central high grounds, but the war was far from over for von Trotha. The general stationed patrols across the desert so that no Herero could return to the vicinity, now fully occupied by the German colonizers. Furthermore, on October 3, 1904, he proclaimed a new policy called the Extermination Order that ordered that all African natives found in the vicinity were to be executed on the spot without hesitation or exception. Von Trotha's extermination order was carried out for the next 2 months. It so turned out that not all in the emperor's court in Germany were in support of the staunch order. One, in the name of Bernhard von Bülow, who served as the Reich Chancellor of Imperial Germany, kept lobbying the emperor, who finally succumbed and rescinded the execution order on December 9, 1904. In its place, they adopted the British method of rounding up natives into concentration camps. The camps were placed in towns where the highest demand for labor was, and the Herero prisoners spent the next 3 years in subjection to hard labor and conditions of cruelty, building government projects with the majority of women and children sold or rented out to slave masters. They also suffered malnutrition, poor hygiene, and starvation, and to mention the height of it, many of them were subjected to human experiments. The inhumane treatment and severe labor of the Herero during those years resulted in the death of over half of all the prisoners in the first year alone. Meanwhile, another uprising occurred down south as well. The Nama tribe rose up against the colonial masters in October 1904 and engaged the Germans in guerrilla warfare, but within 2 years, their fate became much the same as their native neighbors, as they also ended up either executed or incarcerated in concentration camps, where they also had to suffer the wrath of the Germans in all its rawness. The most notorious camp the prisoners were sent to was Shark Island, which was off the coast of the harbor of Lüderitz. Of all that were sent there, about 80% lost their lives. Germany single-handedly almost wiped out the Herero race, for between 1904 and 1908, the entire Herero population had been cut down to 25%, as about 50,000 to 65,000 Herero had died, while about 50,000 of the Nama people also died, leaving their population at a meager number of 10,000 people. When the concentration camps were eventually closed down in 1908, the surviving prisoners were shared among the German settlers to serve as laborers in the German colony. To further substantiate their degraded state of being property, all Herero above 7 years of age were mandated to wear a metal disc around their necks upon which their labor registration number was inscribed, and they were prohibited from owning land, property, or cattle, which was their major form of sustenance, on their own soil. What's more unfortunate about this history cleansing is that it would not be until some 60 years later before the horrid incident would be acknowledged as what it really was: a genocide.
Innovating and collaborating to turn a natural process into a soilless solution. A way of meeting the global need.
Throughout the course of time, humans have experienced and endured difficult and dark events. Of all these dark periods in history, the darkest periods are undeniably those associated with wars. Casualties are the +1 package that comes with wars, for no matter how little, wars are never without devastating losses. And if there was a single ray of light in the dark times, the Second World War, with its unbelievably high number of fatalities, was probably pitch black. Not only does the Second World War hold the highest number of deaths recorded in any war, but it is famously known for its deadliness caused by the many gruesome acts of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, also known as the Nazis, led by Adolf Hitler. From the genocides to the Holocaust, which single-handedly killed about 6 million Jews, the Second World War created a long list of victims of different races who, quite unfortunately, became casualties in the 6-year conflict. However, unlike the Jews, persons with disabilities and homosexuals who are publicly known as victims of the inhuman acts of the Nazis and their less humane leader, Adolf Hitler, a particular group of victims equally victimized and often omitted, and thus denied the right to tell their story, were the Germans of African descent. In this light, it is significant to consider first the history of Black people in Germany. In Germany may be accurately described as a diamond in the rough. Their history goes far back to the beginning of slavery in the 18th century, to the colonization of African territories such as Cameroon, Togo, and today's Namibia by German colonial forces in the 19th century. Following the continuous stealing, oppressing, and incessant killing of the natives, the locals of the African territories revolted against the predatory German forces. As one would expect, the local Africans were far from being a worthy opponent to the German army. Even if they were, they lacked two weapons that the Germans possessed: cannons and an abundance of unreasonable hatred. Starting from this point, Black people were carted away to Germany, where many of the children and women were worked to death as slaves and the men drafted into the army. Many of these men died fighting for the Germans during the First World War. It is hard to estimate the exact number of Afro-Germans who died during this time, as Black people, seen as inferior, were excluded from the German population census. Why would a nation that prides itself in its pure-blooded superiority bother in making headcounts of the lesser ones? Could the German environment be any worse for Black Germans?
Hi guys, here are the top 5 trade secrets that you must know before you tint your next car. Now, many people who tint windows have never had any official training with a step-by-step process, so they can often find their installs having peeling your film from, and just make sure that there's no dust and contamination anywhere.
Damn. Ooh, I fell off right there, man. I said, this thing said I only had one person here. That must be me. See, because if there's nobody in here,
That's the last thing on this planet you'll see me do. I'm watching nobody's football, soccer, basketball. I've never did. I ain't about to start 60+ years into this life of mine. Trying to figure out who to go. They're sitting in somebody's bleach and it hurt. While I'm hurt like I'm hurt.
Yeah.
Cheering them on, making millions of dollars to get beat down.
Yeah.
5 years later. We've been all through high school and the daddy wanted to do this and do that. Do all that.
Yeah.
Finding out new things about this movie.
Would be enforced in 1935 during the rise of the Afro-Germans. It is relatively known that Hitler and the Nazis, with their profoundly twisted ideology of a supreme crystal white pureblood, enacted the Nuremberg laws prohibiting interracial marriages with native Germans. This ridiculous law would be enforced in 1935 during the rise of the Nazi government. However, what many do not know is that these laws were not only binding on the Jews, but on the Afro-Germans in Germany as well. Some of the living conditions of Black people in Germany included persecution for having marriages with Germans, as well.
Ooh. That right there is what they're saying with that right there. They're saying that the white man went to Africa and brought back slaves from Africa. So the white man was already in the world, and that the Africans got discovered. Now you understand why they confused that shit with us as a prominent existence of non-Africanoid people with no genome to Africa, other than our ancestors were the ancestors of the Africans, because our people was here long before there ever was some African souls. So they're trying to tell us that evolution says that the white man came to Africa, the transatlantic slave trade. See, that's where it plays. Ain't that what it's saying? The real transatlantic slave trade was from Germany going to Africa and stealing millions of people and bringing them back to Germany and then putting them in their armies to die or putting them in concentration camps, separated from the Jews, being called separate races, and all of this is in the early 1900s. So no wonder we don't know nothing about no truth. We're finding out now that Hitler, like I always knew, if Hitler, it wasn't all Jews, that all light-skinned Jews that he was annihilating. I knew it.
He was trying to kill the Yahweh, the blacks.
All of them.
All of they are the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
like, and he succeeded because he had Germans go down into South America, into the tip of the iceberg down there in South America, along with the South Pole. When I went down to Argentina, them people looked at me like I was some kind of god. Where this nigga here come from?
Yeah.
See, well, this man black and what the fuck that? Because I'm a nigga. I'm a Negro for real. I ain't no half-spotted Negro with no fine hair. I'm a Negro. Period. And when they seen me up on stage, they said, "What the hell is that?" I'll never forget it.
I'm sitting here. Can y'all hear him? Because I'm sitting here with Michael. You know, me and Michael is over here. We're doing this damn thing. But the reason this just hit me yesterday. I tried to come on and do this piece right here. It came upon me, which is great because, you know, that's what I do. I have to, you know, copyright, you know, exclusatory that Papa Will with his bad English non-spelling ass will pop some knowledge on you.
Yeah, we have to also learn. I'm learning that because this is something what Linda said to me is that we got to turn it sideways sometimes. You got to take that topic and make them laugh first.
Yeah.
They gotta laugh, then they gotta get a piece of the music with it too. They say, you know what? Now, who's your artist? She said, Michael, tell Papa Will. A lot of us old people don't really care for rap. I said, but it depends on what they rapping about. I said, I'm just like that too. I said, but there's certain rap songs that if they're talking about something educational, I'm all for it.
That's the only reason why I'm playing it is education.
I said, but here it is. We're trying to bring them back to where it is now. We're talking about 1904, 1908, and I'm talking about 1984. What I got to look down on. No, I'm sorry. I take that back. I was looked up to when I was down in the South, the real South. You hear me? And they looked up to me like, my son. Okay? Not the other way around.
Not like you've been lied to believe that TV shit.
Exactly. Not the other way around. No. We've always been gods.
Yeah.
Okay. We've always been higher than.
Yeah.
They just want to feel themselves placed in the place that they, you know, they had. We didn't need guns to control our brethren.
Yeah.
They needed guns to separate, you know, and be more powerful than you know. And where they go? Look, these Chinese. Do you see the Chinese down there killing up them other Chinese in this movie? No, they're killing some kind of beast.
Monster, yeah, some kind of beastie monster that got brought to them.
And they're using all of the things that have been given to them, the quartz, the black powder. They're not killing each other with it. That's
exactly.
That's probably why there's 9 billion of them over there.
And I bet you at least 8-9 million of them is still black.
That's right. Man, when I was, you know, when I was in I was in Borneo, Aruba, one of the 3 islands down there. And I talked to this chick, man. She looked Chinese, right? And I said, I don't know, I tripped over her or something. I tripped, and I spoke to her and I said, "I'm so sorry, darling. I'm so, you know, I wasn't trying to come on to her or nothing." And she got up and started talking to me. She sounded like she from Jamaica. I'm not like for real Jamaican. I mean, talking patois such a way I couldn't even understand the hell she was saying. And I mean, she looked Chinese. She talked like a Jamaican. She was. That's what she was. Chinese Jamaican. That's what she told me. I said, girlfriend, I done been a mom. Shit. Yeah. I was in Southwest. Oh, I'm trying to think of what I was telling you about. South Bay. Florida, where I did with James Brown got, James Brown, Millie Jackson, all of them got blacklisted for a long while in the 70s.
In the South?
Going to
foreign countries?
For going to go Sun City.
Sun City is where?
Performing in Sun City down in where Mandela, where they had Mandela.
Jamaica?
Yeah, no. Sun City is in a park where apartheid was. Where what's that? What's it? In Africa, and that's in South Africa.
And yeah.
When our artists went over there to perform for those apartheid hate, the Negro hating Africa, the apartheid, they got blacklisted here. I toured with James Brown when he couldn't perform in Miami proper. He had to perform in Key West.
Yeah.
I had to perform with him when he was in Ocala. Okay, and where's the one I'm trying to think of? Damn, man. Belgrade, Florida. You know what Belgrade, Florida is? Well, Belgrade, Florida is the host to some of the greatest golf courses in the world. Okay, boy called me. Hey, nigga, come here. Let me ask you something. I walked over to him. I'm the starting shit. I walked, some balls. How's can that happen? They just all fell out of that. They said, we just wanted to see what you was going to do. I said, I was going to do what you want me to. That's what y'all paying me for. We'll walk away past it. You understand? Because they paying me with it. Because I don't fuck with people that, if you can't pay my price, don't even call me. That's why I told homeboy other night. This dude I met down here that lives up front. I said, man, they want me to perform here for $100. I told you that. $170 for 4 hours. Y'all must be actually motherfucking money. I didn't do this shit. I didn't do this when they did it. So they doing that.
Yeah.
I just rather not even, they ain't
after all the success later.
I'll make more money in tips than you can pay me.
Yep.
Okay. I sang one song out there in the Fremont
experience
with Frank one day. We sang, Frank said, he said, Mike, I like when you come sing. Because them other songs, he said he be trying to want to copy. He said, but you can sing when you love someone, you're good unless you love them. All the way. Like Frank, he said, you go from Frank Sinatra to Frankie Beverly in a minute. I said, well, that's how I would do it. I said, I can't really sing. I sang, oh man, but you came up there and gave me $100, man. I sang A Song for You by The Temptations. And when I had about 12 people just standing there and mesmerized. That lady came up and gave me $100 bill. She could put it in the jar.
Well, look, I'm just sitting here with our sponsor, Michael, because I looked up, and everybody was gone. So now that everybody done had their little break again, I'm going to go ahead and get this. Yeah, come on back, y'all. Or go share it. Go share what you've seen so far.
That's right.
Go tell somebody to come and sub up to me. Tell somebody you know to come watch this and sub up to me. That's what I need. Okay?
It's just like, who's reading the story?
The person that made this video?
Yeah.
She's
got an English dialect.
Yeah, it's a history reveal, reader that's reading it.
She sounds like she could be a black.
She's black.
Yes,
but she might be from another part of the world.
The British accent.
Yeah. Okay, so
good Queen's English.
Well as being dismissed from education and job opportunities based on their skin color. Afro-German men were branded as rapists who preyed on morally weak white German women. Biracial kids of Afro-Germans and white parents were socially discriminated against and described with derogatory terms like Rhineland-Palatinate bastards. Truly, living in Nazi Germany while being black was an experience that cannot be imagined. With all these actions, the stage was set for the extermination of the Afro-Germans by Hitler, which happened within the context of the Second World War. Based on this, it is crucial to examine the story behind the World War to fully understand the depth of crime committed by the Nazis. At any rate, the Second World War, which began in 1939, had a cause. Like all the wars fought in time, there were a number of contributing factors. The factors leading to the outbreak of the Second World War are still today a topic of interest and debate. In any case, a major contributing factor was the instability in Europe caused by the First World War, which started in 1914 and ended on November 11, 1918. The Nazis, prying on this weak state of Europe, opened an invasive battle in Poland. This attack was launched on September 1st, 1939, and, as if expecting the attack, 2 days later, France and Britain declared a counterattack on Germany. Had the war involved just the two countries of Germany and Poland, it would hardly be referred to as a world war. However, Germany took the war to the Soviet Union, an established country comprising the now Russia and Ukraine, amongst others. It was at this point things took a downward spiral. Other countries began to spread the war by aiming for their perceived enemies until it became a full-blown war that killed millions of people and affected even more. At the center of this worldwide clash were two arch political enemies, the Allies and the Axis, made up of the most powerful countries in the world. The Allies were the forces of Britain, France, the Soviet Union, and the United States of America. The Axis forces were made up of Germany, Italy, and Japan. Without a doubt, the most prominent name during the Second World War was Adolf Hitler. Hitler was made the leader of the Axis, and under his leadership were the gruesome acts committed. The Second World War began in 1939 and continued to escalate until 1945. On the calendar, this is only a span of 6 years. However, for the victims and perhaps all countries of the world, the Second World War was a tragic series of events deeply etched into their memories.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not with physical products.
Well, here Pops is again up here, with more to say about all that it is that we can do. And let me see if I can pop a little background and video up in here. Because I'm sitting here and yeah. I mean, I'm looking right at the show. So as long as the commercial is running, like you were saying, all I'd have to do is measure this time, and what I could actually go do. But I got this sleight of hand tricks going on right now, and right now I got me up speaking, and I'm looking at this silent, but it's running video. Right. And to me that is hella deep cool that I'm making that kind of thing happen right now. But y'all go ahead and pass a rose for those who lost their lives at 9/11. But I am so glad you guys are all here. I didn't realize it was going to snap up, jump up, step up, and be this simple for me today. But I want to take this little moment right
cool, old school. Big Snoop Dogg, I be breaking the rules. I'm phenomenal, your mama knows, so I'ma go and get it. Did the beat, so you know I got to spit it. You got the look of a diva, dog got it all now, follow the procedure. I need you to leave your mind, but bring your body. Ain't nothing but an east side party. You know it's cracking like that, why you acting like that? Hand me your glass, let me pour you some yak, that's land. Now if you act right, by the end of the night you get the candy. The Southside boss, twist that spinach, put fire on the end of the bitch, now let me hit it. Baby you cute, but you need to be fucking with Snoop. Come through and see what it do.
Oh yes, it's Diva night, and she's feeling right. Oh yes, it's Diva night, gonna get it in tight. Oh yes, it's Diva night, and she's feeling right. Oh yes, it's Diva night, gonna get it in time. Get it in time.
Phenomenal, abdominal pressure with the follow through. Relax for a second, let me tell you what we ought to do. We start with the top, then move it to the bottom. Let your dress hit the floor like your panties be dropping. Damn, you look good, girl, rocking the set, getting it wet. Correct me if I'm wrong so I can place my bet. This is the time of the night when your girls join in, cause I'm the type of motherfucker fucking doing it grand. East coast to the west side, doing it all night. Take you one at a time, no need for a cat fight. The D-O-double-G-Y and the W-E-S-T.
Oh yes, it's Diva night, and she's feeling right. Oh yes, it's Diva night, gonna get it in tight. Oh yes, it's Diva night, and she's feeling right. Oh yes, it's Diva night, gonna get it in time.
Get it in time.
Me and my girls out at the club, dancing all night long to the robot dog. Gotta be a rude, but I catch my eye. Super duper kind with a super sweet smile. Gotta get to know me in the right way. Turn up the Marley and pass the J. Looking so fine, listening to reggae. In your arms, I want to stay. I'm the queen, yeah, I'm a diva. Come too close, you'll catch a fever. My love spell on you, yeah, you got amnesia.
Oh yes, it's Diva night, and she's feeling right. Oh yes, it's Diva night, gonna get it in time. Oh yes, it's Diva night, and she's feeling right. Oh yes, it's Diva night, gonna get it in time.
Get it in time.
We gave it to him one cut.
Johnny West, Snoop D-O-double-G.
Contrary to popular belief, the Jews were not the only victims of the Second World War and the Holocaust. Although Hitler had a rather unmatched hatred towards the Jews, he expressed just as much hatred towards Black people and the Afro-Germans in Germany. Admittedly, the extermination of the Jews differs from that of the Afro-Germans. Nevertheless, at the root of it all was the Nazis' unreasoning prejudice, insatiable lust for killing, and inhuman eugenics ideology. It is no wonder that the name Adolf Hitler has become a synonym for evil. In 1937, just 2 years before the Second World War began, the overly scared Nazis opted for the sterilization of the Black Germans to muffle the growing population of the Black community in the country. While one may think that forced sterilization of Black Germans is cruel, the disdain of the Nazis for Afro-Germans had grown tremendously, and at a later time during the Second World War, mass murder was the most probable option in eliminating the polluted blood of Black Germans. Quite naturally, because the extermination methods used on the Black Germans differed from that of the Jews, some question if what happened to Afro-Germans during the Second World War should be considered as genocide. Although the details of the extermination of the Jews were different from that of the Afro-Germans, the general patterns were similar, as ideologies of racism and racial superiority could be found in both. Shockingly, from Adolf Hitler's autobiography, it is inferred that part of his anger towards the Jews was because he believed they played a part in bringing blacks into Germany. It would seem like that to Adolf Hitler, and indeed so. Anything less than 100% German blood was not German, not human, and therefore not qualified to live. A completely self-obsessed belief, but such was to be expected when unreasoning prejudice is at play. On their otherwise pure, undiluted, and superior blood. This evidently showed the contempt of the Nazis, for nothing short of this would have produced the evil crimes committed against the Afro-Germans. Hitler's extermination of the Afro-Germans did not happen in a mass method. Perhaps this is why the exact number of Afro-Germans who died during the Second World War is still debated. But one thing is certain: thousands of Black Germans were killed, and many more were rendered useless by sterilization during the Second World War. However, the cruel actions of the Nazis did conform to genocidal patterns. For instance, the forced sterilization of young and viral Afro-Germans in a bid to intentionally reduce the growing birth rate of the Black community is nothing short of murdering the future of these Black Germans. An argument put forward perhaps by those unable and or unwilling to accept Germany's genocidal acts towards Black people in the past is the comparison of numbers. A ridiculous idea that the number of Afro-Germans affected was not high enough to be regarded as genocide. However, it must be noted that the action itself, not the number of victims, play a major role in defining genocide. It is true that Nazi Germany desired to exterminate Blackness from its perfectly pure white country, and even more true that they intentionally hurt and killed children in their quest for a pure Germany. In other cases, Afro-Germans were taken into extermination camps where they were overworked, underfed, tortured, and used as samples for experiments by the Nazis who were obsessed with genetic purity. Although this may not count as genocide, it was the prominent way the Nazis achieved the extermination of Afro-Germans. These extermination camps were secret laboratories used by the Nazis to carry out experiments on genetics. A rather unusual type of experiment, but the Nazis were strong believers in eugenics and perhaps sought scientific evidence to support their belief that non-Germans, Afro-Germans, and other ethnicities were indeed subhumans with lower hereditary and, by extension, human values. At any rate, genocide or not, all must agree that Adolf Hitler and his prejudiced Nazi government committed moral and civil crimes against the Afro-Germans through the unjust extermination methods that were carried out.
Did you know that you could get $50,000 to over $150,000 of investment capital at 0%?
But I'm glad I recovered in time, man. You know, that's what it always takes. You know, you gotta when you're doing live, you got to always be prepared to move to that next contingent. You know, like, share, comment, support the Y2K show featuring Papa Will with my host, my co-host, and sponsor, Michael Welch. You know, is here with us. We're over here working on some new traits for how to improve the show. So there's, hey Michael, why don't you say hello to the crowd?
Hello to the crowd.
There you go. Yeah, we're up here doing another live. You know, we're covering some incredible Black information about existence, ain't we?
The existence of the world as we know it is somebody else's fallacy. It's not the truth. So
yeah.
It is. Every time we stumble across the truth, we put a lie in front of it so that we can fall down on that and forget about what the truth is. You know, time is moving forward and it's not going to stop. So best spend your time realizing with who you are and being who you are and taking it to somebody else that doesn't know. Because there's too many people out there using these bad words that I don't particularly care for. Nigga this and nigga that, because I ain't no nigga. But at the same time, I am Negro. You could tell by this damn hair, I'm a Negro. But at the same time, I'm a man first. All right? And I just want to say thank you all for gladly stopping by to our locality to help us with our heaping hand of fresh new shit.
yeah, we got that fresh new shit going.
I'm sorry.
We got that fresh new shit going on over here for real.
Say that word either.
You know, but it's an adult word. You don't have nothing to struggle over because you said that word.
I'm still in the beginning of the show.
That's horrible, man. I don't know how we're gonna fix that. But here we go back to the start.
The German capital in a hard battle. At the brink of obvious defeat, Adolf Hitler, who had caused the murder of millions of people, added one more person: himself. It is nothing less than ironic that a man who had presided over the most fatal war would commit suicide. But Hitler's previous actions had shown how knotted his thoughts were. Hence, his suicide wasn't entirely surprising. And perhaps Hitler, in his arrogant pride, thought the Soviet Union unworthy of ending his life. This is very probable, since the German leader himself hardly regarded anyone except pure-blooded Germans as humans. After the death of Adolf Hitler, Berlin fell and the Nazis surrendered, bringing an end to their oppressive rule in Germany. One could almost hear the tears of joy mixed with sadness as the Afro-German survivors of the war mourned their losses and dared to hope for freedom at the possibility of new governance. It is commendable that with such a dark history, the Black community in Germany still exists. Subsequent studies place the number of Afro-Germans during the Nazi reign to be around 25,000, and recently it has been recorded that over 1 million Afro-Germans currently live in Germany. While critics have expressed concerns over Germany's attitudes towards systemic racism in the world today, it is also clear that changes, however little, have occurred in the living conditions of Black people in Germany. As it is popularly said, history unlearned is history repeated. A repeat of the Second World War could end the world and humans faster than climate change. This proves the initial point that it is important to tell the untold story of the Afro-Germans, as this would provide a wider perspective on the diverse methods the Nazis used to express their inhumane ideologies. The Holocaust is an unforgettable event for mankind, and it should remain that way, not just for the sake of truth and learning from it, but for the sake of the Afro-Germans and other unknown victims who still need the opportunity to share their story. Interestingly, Germany was not the only country to have committed genocide against Africans, because at the same time that the Herero and the Nama people of present-day Namibia were being wiped off by von Trotha, Belgium, under King Leopold II, was also carrying out ethnic cleansing of Africans in Congo. You can check out the full story in our next episode.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make
And by. So what did y'all think about that? Afro-Germans. See, now we understand where they got that concept to be able to create a word over here called African-American, Afro-Germans. But I think that's a modern term that they're using in this video. I don't think there was any part of real life saying that these people were being called Afro-Germans in the German language. I don't really believe that was going down. So look, man, I've been out here for a long time right now. And it's time for me to check what the status. I got 8 likes and me and somebody else. Michael, is that you? So I think that I've done enough of the show. And the next thing that I'm gonna do is let me get this Michael Welch song up here. That's what I'm gonna do. I don't think it's. I don't think it's. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one of the original versions of this song right here.
I want you naked, can't you see what your sexy body does to me? You fill my head with fantasies of ecstasy. Me holding you, you holding me, loving me, girl. I want you naked next to me. You've got a body that's so heavenly. Come busting in the club with perfect skin and perfect eyes, perfect lips and perfect thighs. The hair so fine you mesmerize me and everybody else there. You've already decided your trust in me is confided. So go tell your homegirl you're leaving here with me. We ain't got no time for playing games. The name and number that you gave are the real thing. So let's go and satisfy our curiosity. And I want you naked, you want it too. Got my nature rising just for you. So come on, baby, let's stop wasting time. It's tasting time. You show me yours, I'll show you mine. A little bump and grind to the 69.
Well, I knew sooner or later we'd hit a buffer. We'd hit a real hard buffer there, ladies and gentlemen. And while it's doing that, don't let me just step on up here to the plate and bring some more entertainment to the floor. Mm. Mm. Now, let's stop this right here. I'm going to end this live.